Hello, welcome to Leadership in Action, a series of short, timely, and relevant interviews with managing partners on issues important to running a successful mid-sized law firm. These podcasts are part of the Managing Partner series presented by Thomson Reuters in affiliation with the Managing Partner Forum and are hosted by John Remsen Jr., CEO of the Managing Partner Forum and President of the Remsen Group. Our guest this month is Bill Sieder, President of Williams Parker, a Sarasota-based mid-sized firm of 44 attorneys. Aside from firm management, Bill is a certified real estate expert and specializes in representing developers during the entire process of designing and building condominiums and subdivisions. Welcome, John and Bill.
Well, thank you, Colleen. And Bill, thank you for joining us this month for our podcast series. This is the 7th or 8th of the series, and we're delighted to have you on board. Before we get started on today's topic, which is sort of how to navigate your law firm through an economic downturn or a crisis situation, why don't you tell us a little bit about Williams Parker, its history, some of your strategic objectives that you're working on over the next few years?
All right, John. Williams Parker was formed in 1925. We're up to about 44 lawyers now. We are a regional player. We practice primarily in 4 or 5 counties, although in particular points of emphasis we might practice on a statewide basis. We're a full-service civil firm, but we try to focus on a couple areas of practice. Particularly, we deal with a lot of high-wealth individuals, a lot of real estate and tax work.
Now, you, as I understand it, became managing partner in 2006, and it wasn't too long after that that the U.S. economy collapsed, and Florida was particularly hard hit, Southwest Florida in particular. And I know your firm has a heavy real estate practice, and I'm sure that recession really hurt. And so what did you do as a new managing partner? This outside, economic force is really wreaking havoc on your firm. How did you approach it?
Well, it was it did wreak havoc. It was terrible. And we do enough development work that we could see it coming, fortunately. The development work sales stopped in September of 2005. I can still remember that clearly. The rest of the country, the rest of the country didn't see it coming as clearly because there was a lot of build-out and people were still doing closings in 2006 and 2007 on product that was contracted for in 2005. Mm-hmm. But once it hit with a vengeance, and Sarasota and Fort Myers were the epicenter of the downturn. Real estate had been our biggest practice area for 40 years probably, and we had to switch our point of emphasis. As our real estate department shrunk, we started to focus on what was available, and there were still people with wealth, even in 2007 and 2008, that were moving to the Sarasota area from all points of the country, in fact, all over the world. And we tried to tailor our practice to pay particular attention to servicing that high-end client. It gets us to the point that today, tax, estate planning, trust work is our largest practice area. And we have 13 lawyers with either a CPA or a tax LLM designation.
And did you have to let people go during this downturn, Bill, or did you ask them to sort of re-engineer their practices into different areas where you could find work during the downturn?
Yeah, I met with the partners at that time. The first thing we tried to do was set realistic expectations. You're not going to hit the same kind of revenue budget as a firm that you might have hit 1 or 2 years before. So we got expectations aligned. We didn't have to let any lawyers go. We were fortunate that some people voluntarily left. They could see the writing on the wall, and they departed. We didn't lose any partners. And once we established our revamped budgets, happy to say we hit it or exceeded it every year from 2006 till the present day.
Sounds like you did a nice job navigating your way through those troubled waters. And in your role as firm leader, Bill, what did you find to be the biggest challenges in encouraging lawyers to, accept a new reality in terms of their incomes and perhaps, focusing their priorities in other areas? That's not an easy thing.
No, that was a challenge, and I'll point out it wasn't just the lawyers; it's the entire building, because lawyers and staff are seeing friends that they've known for years leaving town, closing their businesses. The subcontractors moving to go to Georgia or North Carolina or someplace where there might be work. So the overall psychology was important. You had to have a good working attitude and give people encouragement. We've been here since 1925, and we'll be here 25 years from now. But we just have to get through this one bump in the road. At one point, I met with all the staff in 2 sessions and told them, we may have to freeze salaries for a year, but we're going to be fine. We're not going to have wholesale layoffs, and we're going to come out of this, just as strong as when we started. And that psychological step was important because otherwise they were just sort of waiting for an axe to fall.
Mm-hmm. And if they're not hearing from firm leadership, there's a buzz around the water cooler, and I think, people start making stuff up, and you sort of lose control of the message. So I think it's great that you call a meeting and they're hearing from you as firm leader that we are going to weather this storm. Here's what we're going to do to make that happen. So I'm sure it was very reassuring to your staff.
Yeah, you're right. It was that, and it wasn't just the subs and the building industry. You are well aware how many banks failed in Florida at about the same time. So it was those were nervous times for sure.
How did you? And I think that you talked about the overall psychology and encouragement. Staff is one issue. Lawyers tend to be a little skeptical, a little jaded. What did you do to encourage them and give them a sense of optimism that we're going to make it through this?
Well, they could see the change in the legal market, and they understood how we were switching our emphasis to go to tax, estate planning kind of stuff. So they realized we had a good business plan. We, like a lot of law firms and indeed a lot of businesses, we tried to take budget steps to run leaner. And John, you've said that at the Managing Partner Forums that from 2008 to 2011, everybody learned a lot of difficult financial and accounting lessons about how to run their businesses more efficiently, and that helped us. Mm-hmm. We had to freeze salaries, and we let some staff people go, but not too many. And as I mentioned, no lawyers, didn't lose any partners. So we could show the other lawyers, the partners, that we had a plan. We just needed some patience to ride out the storm.
I think 2008 really accelerated a lot of long-term trends that law firms were having to face in terms of, the business side of running the firm and being more attentive to expenses, being more attentive to underperformance, and really bringing those business practices to running the successful law firm. That you are running a business and you need a business plan, get everybody on board, and there are going to be economic cycles. But think ahead and get in front of these cycles rather than react to them after they hit you. And sounds like you've learned that lesson pretty effectively and are putting it in play at Williams-Parker.
Yes, and I hope we don't have to do it again to quite that extent. But you're right. I think a lot of us weren't running as lean as we could, and hopefully a couple of years from now we won't have forgotten all these lessons, huh?
And I want to just close by asking you, Bill, as to what advice you might offer other managing partners who might be faced with unanticipated downturns, exodus, what advice would you offer your peers?
Maybe two or three things. One is try to establish realistic expectations, because if you had a downturn, if you had an exodus, it's going to affect your bottom line, and don't try to pretend it isn't happening. Reset your budget and be realistic about it so people know what's coming and they can make their own adjustments. The second is keep a positive attitude. Keep your chin up. And I don't say that lightly. It's not just the lawyers. It's the staff that are going to be looking at you to see how they conduct your business and just how you walk in your carriage. And the third is you need to convince the partners that you've got a plan. In our case, we had a little bit of a shift in terms of our area of primary focus. But whatever it is, you present that to the partners and say, here are the things we're going to do. We can tighten our belt. We have a revised budget. And we're going to take these steps in terms of either replacing that practice area or switching our primary focus to something else, and show them that there's a plan. And if they buy into that and all they need is some patience, then you can get out the other side of the tunnel.
You know, it really does underscore the importance of leadership, and I think a lot of managing partners don't realize that people do take a cue from, as you say, your attitude and the way you walk and present things. People do look to you for that assurance that we are going to get through this. Things will be okay. So I congratulate you for your leadership role and appreciate your being with us this morning.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Managing Partners Series Leadership in Action. For more information and resources, visit legalsolutions.com/managingpartner.